You've met someone like this. They remember the exact date of a conversation you forgot having. They can tell you what you were wearing the first time you met. They recall the precise words someone said 3 years ago, in a hallway, on a Tuesday afternoon. And then there's you, standing there, struggling to remember what you had for breakfast. The difference feels unfair, almost supernatural. But it isn't a gift, and it isn't a flaw, it's a system. And once you understand how that system works, everything changes. Memory was never designed to be a perfect recording. Your brain didn't evolve to store information, it evolved to survive. And survival for most of human history had nothing to do with accuracy. It had everything to do with speed. A brain that stopped to carefully file every experience would have been eaten. A brain that made fast, loose approximations stayed alive. Psychologist Elizabeth Loftus spent decades proving exactly this. Her research showed that human memory is not a replay, it is a reconstruction. Every time you remember something, your brain rebuilds it from fragments, pieces of what actually happened, mixed with what you expected to happen, what you felt, and what you've been told since. Memory is fiction dressed in the clothes of fact, so why do some people reconstruct better than others? The answer lives in a structure deep inside your temporal lobe called the hippocampus. Think of it as a librarian, not just storing information but deciding what gets shelved, how it gets indexed, and how easily it can be retrieved. In people with exceptional memory, this librarian is extraordinarily organized. The shelving system is detailed. The cross-references are dense. Pull one memory and 3 others arrive with it. Neuroscientist Eleanor Maguire discovered something remarkable while studying London taxi drivers, professionals who spend years memorizing thousands of streets. Their hippocampi were physically larger than average. The brain had grown to meet the demand. Memory isn't fixed. It is a muscle that responds to use. But there's a second factor that most people never consider: emotion. Your brain has a direct chemical link between your amygdala, the structure that processes emotion, and your hippocampus. When something triggers a strong emotional response, the amygdala sends a signal that essentially says this matters, encode it deeply. This is why you remember exactly where you were when you heard devastating news. This is why your first heartbreak is clearer than most of the ordinary days surrounding it. Emotional intensity is a memory amplifier. People who seem to remember everything aren't necessarily storing more. They are feeling more deeply, more consistently. Their emotional response to daily life is higher resolution. Every conversation carries weight. Every detail feels significant. Their amygdala is in effect sending the encode this signal far more frequently. Researcher Donaldson Briggs studied people with highly superior autobiographical memory, a rare condition in which individuals can recall virtually every day of their lives in extraordinary detail. What he found wasn't a larger brain or a superior IQ. What he found was a different relationship with experience. These individuals were intensely self-referential, constantly connecting new events to their personal history, weaving a continuous, densely interconnected narrative of their own lives. That narrative is the key. Memory isn't stored in isolation. It is stored in context. The more connections a new piece of information has to existing memories, the more retrieval paths your brain creates. A fact attached to a story, an emotion, a smell, a person, that fact has 5 ways back to consciousness. A fact stored in isolation has 1. And when that single path degrades, the memory disappears entirely. This is why some people forget names the moment they hear them. The name arrives without context, without emotion, without connection. It sits alone on a shelf with no index card, and within hours, the brain's ruthless efficiency kicks in. If this information has no connections, it probably has no value. Discard. The people you think of as having a bad memory often have a perfectly functional brain. They simply haven't built the habit of connection. They move through experiences without linking them to what they already know, without attaching emotion, without asking, what does this remind me of? Here's what that means for you. Memory is more than almost anything else, a habit of attention. The people who remember everything are paying a different kind of attention. They are asking questions while they live. They are anchoring new moments to old ones. They are letting things matter. You don't need a bigger hippocampus. You need a richer inner librarian tonight. When you meet someone new, don't just hear their name, attach it to something, find one detail about them that connects to something you already know. Let the moment be slightly more than routine. The person you'll become 5 years from now is being assembled right now from the fragments your brain decides to keep. Make sure it's keeping the right ones.